I was like pretending to talk.
Oh, I see.
Hi, welcome. Yeah, well, Andy just told me the stream had started, and I was like, hi, hello, and he was like, you're still muted. Don't tell me the stream started and then be like, anyway.
This is why you gotta do the 5.
Yeah. You're in. Welcome. We're in the loft at Battleground Games and Hobbies in Abington. The loft is where we stream from. Battleground has 3 stores, one in Abington, Massachusetts, one in Saugus, Massachusetts, and one in Norton, Massachusetts. We're all in Massachusetts. Maybe someday Derek will expand to other states, but at the moment we are Mass only. But we're in Abington. Abington has a loft. It's a very nice place to stream from. I'm Amanda. Off camera is Dan.
Hello.
So you can hear him but can't see him. We're gonna paint some stuff this morning. I've got 2 things I'm working on. I've got a truck. So last week, I realized I did not have my trucks in my car. Andy and I had gone to move some stuff out of my dad's house, and we had emptied out my car so that we could fit as much crud as possible into it, and one of the things that got moved out of the car was the giant Wasteland Express box, because it is rather large. So we had moved it out of the car, and it just never found its way back into the car before the weekend. So Friday came about, and we were here, and I realized I did not have it, and I was not up for driving all the way home and all the way back, because I had already gone out to get my hair done, and yeah, so.
And there was no traffic on Memorial Day weekend.
Oh, no, none whatsoever. It was absolutely, no, it was horrible. I heard that. Was that a follow, or were those bits? I don't have the stream. I didn't have the stream up on my laptop. I'm sorry, Andy. If those were bits from you, I did not see. I didn't see the notification because I didn't have the stream up on my laptop yet. But I do now. And Toshi apparently woke up really early and now can't get back to sleep. So I'm gonna try and convince him to come join us. But as I was saying, I did not want to go back out and go try and find my trucks. What's up?
I just want to do one quick thing. Hang
Okay. On. Andy's doing a thing.
Full screen. Okay.
Alrighty.
Yes, those bits were from you.
Okay. I didn't have the stream up on my computer yet, so. Wow, when I go to pick up my tea, it looks like I'm picking it up right at out of the camera. It's very weird. I want to keep my tea somewhere other than my water though. I'm gonna put it over here so that I know that they're very separate things, or else I'm likely to just go for the water. So I'm working on the last truck from Wasteland Express. We are working on tweaks, front end loader here, with a trailer on it, and giant spoiler, because that's what you need on your construction vehicle, is a spoiler in case you go too fast. The joke is that they go really slow. Laugh.
Ha ha
Ha ha. So I'm working on that. So that I think I'm probably going to finish today. There's some green flames in the shovel on the front. Check those out.
It's doable. It'll be
it is
a challenge, but
it's
it
just
can be
interesting that it's like this green flame detail. So there's some signage on the side. He's obviously doing a similar thing to a couple of the other trucks where he's taken panels from other panel trucks and stuff and billboards and worked them in as paneling on his trailer. So that's cool. I'm down with that. I enjoyed doing the detailing on some of the other trucks for that. And then I have a special project. A friend of mine, Andrew Pelbel, who is on our Friday night streams these days, asked me to paint his D&D figure for a game he's in right now. And I told him I would. So I primed it. It's all ready to go. So I'm really excited about it. I have notes on the color scheme that he wants and like his thoughts on the character and what he wants out of it. So I have that. I don't foresee this being difficult, except for one part, which I did tell him I would do, but which I am going to need to like really carefully work on, which is that his character is wearing this bandana on his head. And the bandana is, I have notes on the color scheme on this. I know it's black and gold, but I can't remember which way it goes. I think it's gold on black. Maybe it's black on gold. I specifically made myself a document for this. Gold bandana with a black wyvern pattern on it. You might notice it's small. And I said I could do it, so I feel honor bound to actually make this happen.
Challenge accepted.
I know, right? So, I actually have an idea for it. If you've watched the Black Panther movie.
I haven't seen it yet. I know, I'm ashamed.
So there are, even if you haven't seen it, I will show you the blankets that I'm talking about. There are these traditional blankets. I think they're from Lesotho. Basotho Heritage blankets, which bizarrely are sold, like the official seller of these blankets is actually an Italian factory, but it's an Italian factory located in Africa because African troops like were quartered in an Italian garment factory during World War II, and like the owners of the factory like were really cool. And after the war, the African troops were like, you should totally come to Africa and set up shop there because Europe's kind of a mess right now. You should come down where we are and we'll treat you right. And they did. They opened this factory and employ tons of like local people and treat them really well. So like they treat their workers right, which is really cool. And the local government was like, okay, yeah, you get to make these blankets. If we're going to mass produce them, you're the ones who are going to mass produce them, and we'll back you. So I think that's super cool. I think it's really neat. And they're like, yeah, the designs have been developed over many years with the blessing of the Lesotho royal family. Super cool, right? It's Aranda, the fashion name in blankets. Because these blankets culturally are really like culturally significant. They're used as like wedding gifts and stuff like that. So I think they're really cool looking blankets, but what's really neat about them is that the way the patterns work, if the blanket is a square, they're quartered patterns. In not all of them, but many of them. So you have they've got like corn cobs are like a common theme, I guess. So they come in from the corners to the center. And when Andrew was telling me like what he wanted out of that, I was thinking, okay, so what if the pattern on the bandana wasn't your typical like little pattern? What if it was a quartered pattern where you had the like wyvern wings along the sides and the body sort of pointing into the center and out to, with the tails out to the corners? So I said I'd do that. So I'm actually thinking what's going to happen is you're going to see in the center the wyvern's heads sort of meeting in the center and their wings coming across his brow. And I think that would look super cool if I can pull it off. I got to pull it off first. We'll see how I manage. I want to show Dan these blankets though, because they are really cool. Like, they're very pretty. we go. That's.
Ooh.
But you see what I mean about how it being like quartered almost? So that's what I'm thinking of for like as an idea of how the pattern. So I'm looking at a large form pattern like that. So it's going to be like body, wing, wing. So the two wings will be coming into the front of the brow. And then you'll see like the body's sort of pointing in, the nose is pointing in at the top. So that's my thought. To give folks an idea of how this looks. Let me pop the camera off. So that's what we're looking at. That's the Basotho blanket. That's one of them. That's the Shana Morena, the royal crown jewel of all Basotho blankets. And those lines across were part of how they were originally put together. I read up on these a little ways back. They have all sorts of different like patterns and stuff, which is very, very cool. And color schemes. They're really neat blankets. But a lot of them do have this sort of quartered feel to them. So that's what I'm going to run with for the bandana. It was the thing that immediately came to mind as being a doable pattern on a small scale. Am I still in focus? Yeah, that looks good. Cool. So we're looking at a black, gold, and purple color scheme here. Little hints of purple because the character background allows for a little bit of flamboyance. The character background has a hexblade for class and was raised by bards. So a little bit of flamboyance, but mostly pretty emo, was how Andrew put it. So
yeah, knowing Andrew, that makes a lot
Does that
of sense.
sound right?
Yeah. It does.
Are you in this game? Is that a game?
No.
Okay, I am never sure who's in what groups and who plays with whom.
Fortunately, I usually only get to play D&D with people I live near or around, so I can't get down here during the week.
Which is a bummer. Otherwise, we'd drag you in for Friday night streams. We'd make you play board games with us.
I mean,
We played Laser Riders yesterday.
that sounds amazing.
It
I
was
don't know what it
so
is, but
good.
the name alone is like, okay, let's give
It's
this a
so
shot.
good. Laser Riders is, you know Tron?
Yes.
It's board game Tron, basically. It's the most 80s game you can imagine. It comes in a box. So like the people who are watching, it's like Andy and Toshi watching. Toshi was watching. You were watching last night. You know of which I speak. It looks like a VHS box set. And it's like all neon and black and like holographic like paint. It's so good. But you are a laser rider, one of 4 characters that each come in their own VHS cassette case. Basically,
Awesome.
it's like one of those like, slide out cases that has the tray with all of their movement pieces on it. So it's so good. And they've each got like flavor and background to them. So there's like the laser shark whose species was wiped out because they were too ruthless. And there's the super sheriff and the galactic wave rider who's totally tubular, man. And there's the phantom cosmonaut. And they each have special abilities, and they're each like, their pieces are colored and flavored for their character. It's such nonsense. I love it. So we played Laser Riders last night, and that was a good time. I think I'm going to do some base stuff on him first. Because this is based, for the most part.
There was a game, I don't remember what it was called.
Let's finish basing that out, and then we'll base him, and then we'll do detail work. That sounds like a plan.
It was a space racing game where each of the creatures was a different intergalactic species, but the whole premise of it was they were all really dumb. And the winner of the race was the one that wasn't going to get wiped out.
I'm totally into that. I would play that.
And I remember their ships did all kinds of weird stuff, and they were all oddly shaped.
What is he showing me?
I'm not.
Toshi, if you're watching, you're sending me video links. Oh my god. Yeah, that is the aesthetic. Thank you.
Do I want to know?
No, it's just it's this is 100%. Oh, I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
The 100% the aesthetic.
Oh, nice.
For Laser Riders. I can't watch a video when I have time to watch it. Thank you. I will watch it later because that is 100% the aesthetic I want. All right, so what am I doing here? I need to do the metal grates over the windows. I need to do the metal grating there and the panel piece there. I'm not going to be able to really get the detail work back here for the sign that's behind the spoiler. It's just too close a piece, and this is far too thick a piece for me to be cutting through and then I'm not going to cut this apart to reglue it. That's not going to happen. It's not, I don't care that much. These are very tiny figures. The only thing I don't love about this is that because they all have to fit in the same spaces on the game. Thanks, Toshi. Because they have to fit in the same spaces, they're all the same physical size, but the scale is different for each one of them. This is not the same size as iGat's house on a trailer, and iGat's house on a trailer is the same size as the Fallen's school bus. So because they all need to fit in the same places in the box, and because they need to fit on the same board, all of the trucks are the pieces are the same size, even though that makes the scale very different between them. That's the only thing I don't love. But in the grand scheme of things, that's very minor. And look, Andrew's got a little hero vault for his, it's the wormwood.
Excellent.
So
that's $800 right there.
His girlfriend bought it for him.
Well,
his wife.
Oh, what?
People get married and I forget. But yeah, his wife bought it for him at PAX, I believe. So, actually, let me get closer. Oh, I'm holding it upside down. That's not helpful. Wormwood Gaming is amazing. They do things to hold your dice and things to hold your miniatures. This is actually, why am I showing it up there? I can show it under the document camera. Look at that. Look at how beautiful that is. And it's all held together with magnets. So this is the hero vault that's used to hold this little figure. Right in there. So yeah, Wormwood's amazing. I love Wormwood. Andy and I have a dice tower from Wormwood that we won one year at Extra Life. We won the raffle for that, which was really cool. And I bought Andy a matching dice tray that year for Christmas, and was very pleased with myself for keeping that a secret.
I'm very hesitant to do the custom minis thing. I've created, I think, every one of my campaign's characters.
It's so, yeah.
Was it Hero Forge? But
that's where Andrew got this one done.
I know as soon as I do that and I spend the $30, that character will die.
Yeah,
I think that's
exactly.
a death sentence.
I guess this particular character he's really, really happy with, but then after he had this character done and 3D printed and everything, he lost an arm.
Oh no.
So he's like, do I want to Do I want to like cut the arm off, or do I want to just bank on him getting the arm back at some point and not worry about it? So he's stuck with keeping the arm because it would be annoying to reattach later.
You'd be wondering why I have a red arm. Yes, we all are. Should have known right there, that scene.
Yeah. I'm not getting into that. I have such mixed feelings.
Well, you ever seen Fanboys?
No.
It's actually pretty funny. It's a group of friends who decide, we find out one of them is dying of cancer, and they decide that they're going to execute their lifelong dream of traveling across the country in one of them's van to break into the Lucas Ranch to see episode 1 before it's released. I think it's the late 90s.
Wow.
And they go on this ridiculous road trip. But the last line of the movie is opening night of the actual premiere.
I'm not feeling ambitious, Andy.
Oh.
I'm not magnetizing that arm. Andrew didn't want me to detach it, so we're not doing that. Anyway, continue, Dan.
And they look at each other and it's like, hey guys, what if the movie sucks? Oh, that was prophetic.
So, if we're going to talk Star Wars, sure. I was in college when episode 1 came out, and I wanted it to be good. I wanted it to not suck for so long that I convinced myself that it was better than it was. And I ignored a lot of really obvious problems out of wishful thinking and really wanting to like make excuses for it and have it not be horrible. And there are a handful of things in episode 1 that aren't like that bad. Handful. I'm not trying to say the movie is good. That being said, I convinced myself for a long time that it was not as bad as it actually is. And when I finally admitted to myself that, yeah, it's really bad, it was very frustrating because you want it to be good. You want the thing that you've been waiting for to live up to the hype. And it didn't, which was very frustrating. That being said, I do know kids, because I work in a library and I work with a lot of kids who are being exposed to Star Wars. Which movie? Phantom Menace, Toshi? Sorry, chat's over here, camera's over here. Are you talking about Phantom Menace? You're not a Star Wars person, so. The one with the kid, with like Jake Lloyd and Sebulba and the pod racing? No, Fanboys? Okay, thank God. I was gonna have to like disown you as a friend, and that would be like 15, 16 years of friendship down the tubes. Toshi says Fanboys is great, so I'm gonna have to watch it. We did talk about Phantom Menace, but my brain blanked because I've blanked out a lot to do with the prequels. So this is a thing. Have I told you about Andy and I doing our movie project?
No.
Okay, so quick recap for anyone watching who doesn't know about this, or who might know about this but has forgotten the specific scope of this particular project. My husband and I both worked at video stores for a very long time. Throughout my years in college, throughout years after I was in college, when I was working at the library, Andy worked for Blockbuster here in Massachusetts. We worked for an independent chain in Philadelphia, which technically still exists, but not as it exists as like a production company and online website, which I'm not gonna point people to because it's largely adult stuff these days. This is a family stream.
That's how families are created, sort of.
I guess if
Sorry.
you need the visual aids. Anyway, so in any case, Andy and I both worked for video stores for a very long time. and not if you do it right. That's a good point. So Andy and I both worked for video stores for a very long time, and we worked at video stores through from pre-DVD, like in those couple of years between laser discs coming out and never quite achieving the traction that they could have gotten because they were the size of LPs. And VHS cassettes were much smaller and they were much easier to produce, and people already had the technology, and getting another player just so that you could get a whole bunch of LPs or LP-sized things, which I have a related story about, just never took off. We had a handful of teachers at my high school who had totally bought into it. They owned laser discs, and they insisted that if we were going to show a movie, Andy and I were in the AV crew, and if the AV was going to show a movie to their class, they were going to show it on Laserdisc, and they would bring in their own Laserdisc copy of whatever movie they wanted to show. But Laserdiscs never took off. We worked at video stores in that time between when Laserdiscs sort of came into being and when DVDs showed up and did everything that Laserdiscs were supposed to have done, but did it in a smaller package and actually got the traction that Laserdiscs never did. So we were working at an independent video store when DVDs started coming in. We were one of the first stores in like the Philly area that had DVDs in stock for rental, which was very cool. Yeah, they were insanely expensive. Exactly. They were more expensive to produce than VHS cassettes, and VHS cassettes were expensive. Back in the day of Blockbuster, VHS cassettes, if you wanted to buy a movie on VHS, you didn't buy it on VHS when it came out. You had to wait until the rental price went down and it went to retail price. Rental places got it first, which is stupid, but whatever. So in any case, we worked for a lot of video stores. Well, we worked for 2 video stores. We worked in like 2 different states and 2 different chains. And then Andy was at Blockbuster when Blockbuster started to go out of business. And he helped close down a handful of different Blockbuster locations because he was a manager, and that was a thing that he did, which was a bummer. But so it goes.
Video Grim Reaper.
He unfortunately was kind of the hatchet man. If he showed up at your store was probably due to close sometime in the near future. Which is sort of a cruddy feeling to have, to be like, yeah, when I show up, people are like, oh, we're closing. In any case, we worked at video stores, and because we worked at video stores, we amassed a fairly large collection of movies. And then because Andy was working at Blockbuster while Blockbuster was closing down stores, we amassed even more movies, because when you start to close down the store, they do like a half price sale, and then they do like a $2 sale, and then a $1 sale. So
please don't make us put this in a dumpster sale. Yeah.
Very much, though. I do have a story of the original copies of Good Burger, which is the Kenan and Kel movie from Nickelodeon. It was one of those orange VHS cassettes. The original run of those accidentally ended up with a trailer for an R-rated movie on it. Oops. It's a Nickelodeon movie, so they're not supposed to have that. So the Blockbusters that had bought the original run of it were ordered to destroy the VHS cassette, so they had to take them out to the dumpster and smash them. Isn't that fun? Yeah.
Many things get destroyed that way.
Oh, yeah. Though not the candy that we were ordered to take off the shelf that looked like Lego. It was basically like Lego-shaped Pez bricks, and we had to take them off the shelf because the worry was that kids would think that their actual Lego bricks were edible and would try to eat them.
I can see where that could become a concern.
Yeah, I mean, it's an understandable concern, but the problem was they had us take the candy off the shelf, but then they didn't tell us what to do with it. So it just sat in the back room. And we weren't allowed to sell it, and we weren't allowed to eat it. We just had to leave it there. It was very strange. There were a lot of strange things going on at Blockbuster, but whatever. The upshot is Andy and I ended up with a very large collection of DVDs and VHS cassettes. And weird stuff, some really weird stuff, because like at one point one of the employees at one of the stores Andy worked at had put aside a movie. What he would do is he would put things aside and be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna buy this. And he'd put them aside when things went on like half price sale, but he wouldn't buy them until the dollar sale. But that meant that people sometimes would like come looking for something and they'd be like, no, it must have sold. And it would turn out it was in this guy's stack. So Andy was finally like, no, you don't get to do that. I'm buying everything in this stack. So we just bought the guy's pile of movies. Which meant we ended up with this pile of random stuff in our apartment. So one day I looked around our apartment and I thought, we own a lot of movies and we are not watching all of these movies, and that's stupid. If we're gonna own these movies, we're gonna watch these movies. It turns out that's actually bent over the top of the truck, so that's actually the same thing. So I said, we're gonna watch these movies, or I'm gonna watch these movies. It's like, if we're gonna own these, I'm gonna watch them. And that's just, I'm gonna watch every movie we own until I've finished. If we own them, we should be watching them. So we did. Which means we've watched some movies.
I believe that.
And some of them were like fun bad. Like Sharks in Venice is like, I hold it up as my ideal, horrible but hilarious movie. It's like everything you expect it to be. Like, you know, from me saying Sharks in Venice, you now know exactly what that movie is.
Yep.
I promise.
I don't need to watch it.
The only thing you don't know is that it has one of the lesser Baldwins. That's all. That's it.
Okay.
That's all the title doesn't tell you, is that there's a Baldwin in it. And now you know. So you're done. But yeah, it's a bad movie. But it does mean that we also rewatched the prequels. Getting back to Star Wars, where we started this. We did go back and rewatch the prequels, and I realized when we rewatched the prequels that I had blocked out the entirety of Clone Wars. Or Attack of the Clones. Attack of the Clones. I had blocked it all out. I've even blocked out the title, apparently. I watched it and I was like, there are vast swaths of this movie that I just flat out do not remember. Oh, that happens in this movie. Totally blocked it out. I had no memory of it. So, Star Wars.
That's one of those that could have been.
There's so many disparate bits and pieces in that movie, and I just...
Derek and I have discussed this, I think on several occasions. I feel like they painted themselves into the corner by making the Jedi into the monastic warrior monks. That's in no way redundant. As soon as they did the no attachments, no relationships things, you removed what
there was
could
a
have
lot
been a
that
great plot point. Both for Anakin to have more things to seduce him to the dark side other than just the raw concept of power. If Palpatine was showing him, was like, no, you should totally use your powers to get whoever you want to do whatever they want.
Yeah. There are a lot of errors made. There are a lot of missteps. Which is a real shame. But here we are.
I can't believe I'm saying this, but it's one of the few times that the potential addition of a love triangle might have made some sense. I believe, again, it was Derek who pointed out, see, every time I've known a couple of guys who have known each other and been best friends for years that have a massive falling out, it's almost always over a girl. And if they'd gone down that road with Padme instead...
I mean, I still would have been like, ugh. But also at the same time, I find Padme and Anakin one of the least believable romantic plots in any movie I've ever watched.
Oh, definitely. There was. What is the opposite?
One,
of
why would
chemistry?
you go after? I mean, no shade on Hayden Christensen. I think he's a perfectly decent guy, and he looks perfectly fine. But why would you go after him, having known him as a child, if you could have Ewan McGregor? Just,
Yeah, you know,
come on.
it's got some validity. It's
Yeah, Attack of the Clones is not a good movie. Andy says, you're right. Because she loved him as a child, and because it's the South, Toshi.
Wow, they're not related already. Gee.
Dan took a step further. I think two of you would be buds.
Wait, was I not supposed to? I'm confused what the rules of
Wow.
engagement are here.
Wow. So Toshi is a friend of mine I've known for ages online. We are garbage friends. We've bonded over enjoying garbage.
Oh, I was like raccoons? Like what?
Yes, exactly like raccoons. We dig through garbage media and we tell each other not to watch things, and then
It's kind of a challenge.
at least I tend to ignore what Toshi recommends. Yes, like raccoons. Yes, we are basically raccoon friends.
Mine's back. I returned last weekend and hung out. This time he stayed the entire day up in the tree.
Look at this trash. It's my trash.
I like the animals, so I don't shoo them away. I just don't really want them starting to actually dig into our trash cans.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing to have one like hanging around. It's another thing for them to be like spreading your garbage all over the lawn. Anyway.
I suspect this creature has difficulty telling time in however they kind of judge, and gets himself stuck in our neighborhood when he's like, oh, I should be, the sun's already up.
Or starting fights with your dogs. Toshi, you have very tiny dogs. Do they fight with raccoons? You have very, very small dogs. You have like chihuahuas. You have little sausage dogs. Every once in a while, they step on your keyboard and talk to me. So Toshi and I have known each other online for many years. We are definitely garbage friends. When are we going to start the podcast? When we get off our butts. That's when. I've been talking for ages, so there's this chart online I found that is how good a thing is along this axis, how much I like it on this axis.
Okay.
So there's like a bad, so bad it's good, and that's the garbage peak right there. So we named it Trash Mountain. You used to have a chihuahua that picked fights with opossums.
Wow.
That's either a really foolish chihuahua or a really amazing chihuahua. Whose side is who on? Andy? Andy's on my side. He's my husband. Anyway, what was I talking about? I was talking about garbage. So yeah, Trash Mountain. So I decided I'm the queen of Trash Mountain, which is that peak. And being the queen of Trash Mountain, I decided I need to be able to talk about garbage, the garbage that I love. Peak garbage, yeah, basically. But who am I going to talk about garbage with if not my garbage friend? So I need to get Toshi to do Trash Mountain with me. But we need to figure out format, and we need to figure out logistics of like getting us recording together because he's across the country. We are not in the same physical location ever. We've been in the same physical location like what, twice? Once in Vegas and once in California. We went to the Star Trek experience in Vegas before they shut it down. It was fantastic. It was 100% everything I wanted it to be.
All right. This may be a terrible idea.
What are you doing?
I'm going to try to give these guys a lighter wash because I don't feel like they're dirty enough yet. But this could go very, very wrong very quickly.
Yeah, it could.
So I'm going to use the lighter washes from Vallejo. And this water is pretty filthy now, so it should work to my advantage.
Yeah. I did notice, so I did, I tried to I tried to dilute a wash once, and I used water that was unfortunately dirty, but dirty with light colored paint, and it ended up leaving like a light colored residue in a lot of places. That was really unpleasant, and I had to go back over it. Very annoying. It was my own fault, though. That was me being lazy.
I think this is doable. I just gotta really run it
Bright color.
a lot. I can't sit. I think that's gonna be the key. Because it has to get abused here.
So this, I think, actually isn't super, like, this is the one truck that is really different on the back from its artwork. Look at that. So if you look at the textures on the panels and stuff, this grid, this like network here should be up on top. And this panel here should be down at the bottom. The corrugated metal is where it should be. But then that shouldn't be like a metal panel, a metal textured panel. And it looks like it maybe has camo on the top of it, but that definitely doesn't work with the paneling that it has. It's the only one that like really doesn't match up. Which is kind of weird. Like that seems strange, but whatever.
Well, every once in a while you encounter, usually it's cover art on books. Before you drew this, did you read anything about it? Because that doesn't look remotely like...
So I actually have a story about this. Because when I was a kid, an author named Lynn Reed Banks came to visit a bookstore in Milton, which is near here. Milton is a suburb near us, and it's where I went to school. And there was a really great children's bookstore in Milton at the time called the Little Book Room. And my family loved the Little Book Room. We spent a large amount of time at that bookstore. They like ran book clubs and stuff. They're a little independent place, and we loved the owner and we loved the staff that worked there. It was just a great little store.
Mm-hmm.
And they had at one point an author visit from Lynn Reed Banks, which was really amazing because she had just like won an award or something. It was like a big deal. And she wrote a book called The Indian in the Cupboard. Now,
Okay, yeah.
The Indian in the Cupboard, not the most culturally sensitive of books in hindsight. I mean, I'm sure there were adults who knew more about Native Americans at the time who like don't need the benefit of hindsight, but I was a kid and I did not know. So I rather enjoyed the book. It's about a boy named Omri, very British, whose father brings him, I think it's his father who brings him, or his uncle, someone brings him home, a metal medicine cabinet. And the way it's described in the book, it's a cabinet about yay big, and it has, it's probably about this deep. And it's got 2 metal doors on hinges that you're supposed to be able to pull open. It has 2 little metal handles, and there's a shelf in the middle across the interior. And Omri plays with it. He uses it to like store some stuff. And one night he leaves a little plastic Indian figure. And we're talking like cowboys and Indians, like very generic, no specific tribe toy. You know, like the most stereotypical cowboy and Indian toy you can think of. He leaves it inside the cabinet, and the next day when he opens the cabinet, the toy has come to life. And it's a little miniature person. A real Native American dude from a real tribe. And it's mentioned in the book now. Looking back on it, I am sure that like there's a lot of really insensitive stuff in there. I have not gone back to reread the book. That's not my point. My point is the cabinet in the book very specifically has doors on it. Because that's the whole mechanism. Because Omri experiments with it through the course of the book. He tries leaving the doors open and the figure in, and it doesn't work if the doors are open. You can leave it open overnight with a figure in it and nothing happens. It's only when the doors are closed and it's only overnight that it works. So, yeah, that's a very that's like a key point about the cupboard, and it's in the title. It's the Indian in the cupboard, and the cupboard is a metal cabinet. The cover artist that they got to do the paperback covers was only given a brief. And this was, so when Lynn Reed Banks came to visit, she talked about this. About how, because people asked, they were like, why is the cover so weird? Like, why is it this weird, like, wooden curio cupboard? And she said, the authors never really get to talk to the cover artists. You have to be a much bigger deal to have any real input into the cover directly. Now, keep in mind, this was like the 80s. But I'm pretty sure, given things I know about covers that have come into being since, that this is still very much the case. She said, you really don't get a whole lot of say. That the publisher gives the artist that they've hired a brief about the story and like points that they want to highlight, but they're not given a whole lot in the way of detail. And the artist comes back with a cover design and a finished product, and there's like a whole process to it, but at no point is the artist really given a manuscript to read. So they can't get the details a lot of time. And especially if they're contract artists doing a lot of different like commission pieces, I doubt they could sit there and read every single book that they're doing covers for, because they have to paint the covers. So this always struck me as really sad, because yeah, the Indian in the Cupboard's paperback cover is this like wooden curio shelf with like lots of little shelves and like cubby holes for little figures. And all things considered, it's a nice warm display area. You've got lots of other little figures that could be in the book. That's a great idea. But speaking of the actual book, it's not at all what is in the book. So, yeah, that I always felt was kind of...
It doesn't match.
Does not match at all.
I've occasionally seen it go the other way, at least with video portrayals. The Sharp series by Bernard Cornwell, he's actually retconned himself.
Interesting.
Because the novels are written out of order, chronologically. He went back and filled in a lot of his background well after the series.
Which can be tricky, because you got to think about what you've covered and what you said about it. And yeah.
but the BBC had picked them up and did a mini-series of them, and
we get them in at the library every so often.
The stories do not really hold. One of them actually, other than the title and the characters' names, is not remotely the story in the books. Not even close. And oftentimes the stories in the television version of it are not nearly as good. Mostly a budgetary issue. The character portrayals, however, were excellent, with very few exceptions. Like, they nailed the look and the attitude and everything with them, to the point where Sean Bean, I think it was one of his first major starring roles. He doesn't die. Spoilers.
Amazing.
Well, that's because he has help on this one.
He doesn't die in Jupiter Ascending either.
But
that's because he's part B. I don't know.
Bernard Cornwell has gone back and retconned part of the story background, or part of the character's background, to match Sean Bean. He said, I can't imagine him looking and acting any other way
Sean Bean
anymore.
just did such a good job with it.
Yes.
He's embodied the character in such a good way. Yeah, when it comes to like casting of things, one set of casting that I'm really, really happy with right now is Runaways.
I'm unfamiliar with this.
So Runaways was a comic series from the like late 90s, early 2000s, I think. And it's a Marvel thing. It's teenagers who find out that their parents are supervillains. Are like a villainous cult, basically.
Okay.
And are trying to like bring about the end of the world, sort of thing.
Oh, that's a bummer.
And so they run away. They're like, okay, we don't want to have anything to do with this, basically. So they take off. They run off, and hence the Runaways. It was a really, really good. It was a really good comic series. At least like the first. Several issues. I want to say like the first maybe 5 books or so were really good. I sort of lost track of it when Joss Whedon took over the writing. I did not keep following it. I have a lot of issues with Joss. One of which is that he likes to kill characters for shock value, to show you how serious he is. And I don't love that particular. You can do a lot of shock value without actually killing someone.
I would not recommend you read Dan Abnett then.
Okay.
The Gaunt's Ghost, every book after the third in the series, you lose somebody by the end of it.
It's not so much losing someone. So one of my favorite book series is Melanie Ron's Dragon Prince books, and then the trilogy that comes after that, the Star Scroll books. They're really good. However, Melanie Ron also has in the intro to one of the books, she says, so I've been told that I'm bloodthirsty. What? Me? Bloodthirsty? Just because I need to keep a list of all the characters so you know who's died. That's the level of bloodthirsty we're talking about. It just starts to get predictable that Joss is going to kill like specific types of characters. And that gets a little frustrating, and I got a little tired of it. And he also has a couple of, I don't know if I can say fetishes, but they're definitely things that he likes his broken badass girls, and he likes them barefoot. It's his thing. He likes a woman who could kill you with her pinky, but who has only come to that place by being horrifically broken. And he likes to see her walking around barefoot. It's a thing. And I got a little sick of it. Got a little sick of it. So when he took over writing Runaways, I was like, ugh. They've already like killed off a character. I know they're going to kill off a character I like because she doesn't fit his, like, the things he enjoys. And I'm really not interested in seeing that. And sure enough, he did. And that was really frustrating. So I stopped reading it. But the first couple of books are really good. And they recently made, Hulu did a series for it. And the casting is fantastic. Every single character, I feel like, did a fantastic job with who they were cast as. So I'm really, really happy with that. I'm also weirdly impressed by the casting on Darkest Minds, which is coming out, which is a YA dystopian sort of deal. And I read the books. I read a lot of YA books for work. We only have one YA librarian at my library, and so it behooves the rest of us to be informed because she has a lot on her plate. I mean, granted, I have a lot on my plate too, but I also enjoy YA books, so it's sort of one of those, this helps with my job and I enjoy doing it, so why wouldn't I? Deals.
We are making progress.
But I read Darkest Minds feeling like this looks decent. And it was perfectly decent YA dystopia. And they're making a movie. And the movie actually looks like they've done a really good job casting it. So I'm happy about that.
That is a plus, is when they did, I think it's still coming out on Netflix, they did another one of Cornwell's series based on the Warlord Chronicles. It's a Dark Age story. The casting was, it's not terrible, but it's also, if you've read the books, kind of like, nope.
Yeah, how'd you arrive at that sort of feel?
Yes.
Yeah.
And they made some weird changes.
Like the Percy Jackson movies. There's like a whole plot point around one of the characters being blonde. And she's not blonde. Which would have been such an easy fix. Like, that's such a little thing to fix, and it's such a weird thing to ignore.
Well, in season 1, they cut out one of my favorite characters from the book series. And it seemed like at first maybe it was just difficult to cast. He's not the brightest individual. He's just a gigantic warrior who's very good at fighting and actually has a very down-homesy, of the earth wisdom to him. And one of the cool things, as a side in the books, is they've now stretched out long enough for people's children to be coming into play and for several of the characters to be dealing with their own age. At one point, he and the main kind of narrator are standing talking. I was like, "How old are you?" And he's like, "I don't know, 40?" He doesn't know. It's about the year 900 or so. It's not really relevant to him. There was another great scene where he's encountering this young kid coming at him, the main narrator, and he kind of flashes back to something that happens in the first book, and he has this moment of like, was this what the guy I killed was thinking about? Like, here's this young punk kid gonna make his reputation on my corpse.
Yeah.
But they removed this character from the story, and they had another character do some of the things that he did. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then the character they used dies, as he does in the books. And then in the next season, they introduced the other character, which was cool, and the casting wasn't terrible. Like, if you were going to bring him in anyway, why did you just have him do what he did?
Yeah.
Because that was kind of the first time they encounter each other, they're told to fight to the death. It's a punishment.
Yeah, so one of my big frustrations in terms of movie adaptations, like screen adaptations of a book, is one of my very favorite book series of all time, which is The Darkest Rising. It's a series of children's fantasy novels from the 70s. They won awards. The first book won the Newbery Honor the year it came out. The third book actually won the Newbery Medal, won the top award, which is hard for book 3 of a series to do, but it did it. It's an excellent book. It's what got me interested in learning Welsh way back when I was in like 3rd grade. course, things like Duolingo didn't exist when I was in 3rd grade, so I had to wait. Welsh classes were not really accessible for like a kid in
anywhere,
Massachusetts in like the 80s. But in any case, I love this series. It's a fantastic fantasy series. It incorporates a ton of like Arthurian mythos into it. It's got the sort of familiar you turn 11 and something magical happens deal.
Okay.
11 is just it's the age where magic happens.
Oh, I was like, I guess I missed something. There's nothing
11 is one of those ages where, like, when you read children's fantasy literature, 11 is the age where, like, people discover they have magical powers. And how old is Harry Potter when he gets into Hogwarts? He's 11. Like, 11 is like this, it's the magical age. It's one of those things.
I guess I missed something along the way here.
If you read, it's especially prominent in like British.
Well, no, I mean myself. Like, nothing magical happened when I turned 11.
Yeah, nothing magical happened when I was 11 either. Believe me, I
universe.
was waiting. But when I was a kid, I loved these books. I absolutely fell in love with them. My username on Twitch is from them. Merriman Lion is a character who mentors the main character. The main character is a boy named Will Stanton. And Will Stanton discovers when he turns 11 that he is part of a secret group of magical folks called the Old Ones. The Old Ones are there. They exist on Earth to protect mankind from the dark.
Okay.
And to try and sort of steer mankind into not destroying itself by turning to the dark. Because the dark would very much love to have mankind just destroy itself. That's sort of what it does really well, is it makes... You were magic at 11? I can imagine you at 11, Toshi. And I believe you were magical. Yeah, puberty's magic. That's true. But 11 specifically, not like 12 or 13. 11 is like the number that you see pop up in book after book after book. It's just one of those things. So in any case, Will discovers that he can do magic, that he's part of this magical group called the Old Ones, and that he sort of has this duty to help protect humankind from itself. Which, as you can imagine, is a difficult task. Humans, so reasonable.
Completely rational beings that make intelligent decisions on a regular basis.
Totally. Okay. So he comes from a family of, like, a large family. He's the, like, seventh son of a seventh son, which is also another, like, folklore sort of deal.
Okay, yeah, a lot of number magic kind of.
But he also didn't know he was the seventh son of a seventh son until midway through this book, where he finds out that there was an older brother named Tom who died as a baby. And he didn't know about that. Most of the kids in the family didn't know about that, but Will is the youngest child. He's the seventh son of a seventh son, but he also has two sisters. So it's a big family. They live in, like, this farmhouse in like the not full countryside, but definitely like suburban countryside outside, in England. They have like a farm, but they can also go into town, sort of deal. And it's not like village, but town. But there's also like a manor house nearby, and there's a lady who lives there who, like, runs the manor and so on. It's, a story about magic and about protecting the world from evil. And I absolutely fell in love with it as a kid. And part of the, like, character of Will is that he's got this really loving family, and he has to sort of hold himself apart from them eventually, because He knows that like he's going to live a very long time, and he can never tell them about what's going on. If he ever has to tell them, he then has to make them forget, which is very isolating. And that's part of like the tragedy of him, is that that's going to happen. And there's something very poignant about that in the books. And in the movie adaptation, which most people don't know exists because it flopped, because it was horrible, they made the family American, but living in England, which is bizarre. They took out all the references to Arthurian mythos, which is also bizarre because if they were hoping to ever make sequels to it, in the third book he meets son of Arthur. Oops. It's kind of a big deal. It's kind of
that's a big
enormous deal to have all of this Arthurian stuff pop up later on. They took out all the Arthurian references. They changed various characters around. They had his whole family like bully him all the time instead of being a loving family. It's just, I guess the only person in the cast who ever read any of the books was a woman who played Maggie, who in the books is like an innocuous character. In the movie, I guess they made her evil. I never watched the movie. I trusted other fans of the books when they said they've done this and they've done this and they've done this and it's absolutely horrible. And here's a spreadsheet of all of the things that have been changed and like what they've done to these characters and these plot points. I trusted those people, and I feel like I was entirely justified in trusting those people. And when they said this is not the book, this is not the story that you love, I trusted them. So I never watched the movie. I don't think we even own it at the library. And that's not like, oh, I convinced my boss not to get it. It's more, I think, like we might have bought it and eventually it like got weeded out because no one checked it out. Which is sad. It's sad when something like that happens. Because the books are really gorgeous. They're beautiful. There's so much they could have done with that, especially following like Harry Potter. Because this was definitely done in a, we're trying to cash in on Harry Potter popularity at the time. Like, it was probably a studio that had been sitting on the property for a very long time and decided to cash in when Harry Potter got big to try and make a quick buck. They could have like had a 4-movie series on their hands, and they could have really taken advantage of like absolutely beautiful countryside in the UK, or pretend UK, but they could have done it, and they didn't, and that's a pity. And it makes it that much less likely that I'll ever get a good adaptation of it. I don't even remember who was in it. I know Ian McShane was in it. Ian McShane played Merriman, which I was like, I love Ian McShane, but why? He is 100% not Merriman. Merriman as a character is this like tall, gaunt dude with like a shock of white hair. Like he's supposed to be like almost otherworldly looking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, anytime you start doing the cash grab kind of things like that, it gets a little weird. Especially for people who love the books or whatever, and then, like,
yeah,
you understand how different it is from, say, a Harry Potter or whatever, but
yes.
The general audience is kind of like, oh, so this is basically Harry Potter.
This is what it is, yeah, exactly.
I've already seen Harry Potter, why would I watch this instead?
Yeah, oh, believe me, working at the library, do you know how many books I had to convince kids to take that their responses were always, oh, so it's like copying Harry Potter, and I was like, no, it was written 20 years before Harry Potter, so J.K. Rowling, I'm not saying she was copying this, I'm saying that she was following in a like grand tradition of like going to boarding school, discovering you can do magic. Toshi says, Spider-Man Homecoming was basically Miles Morales' friends and backstory, and they put Peter Parker in it because otherwise they couldn't use the title Spider-Man. You are correct. I liked Spider-Man Homecoming, but you are 100% correct on that, and I would have loved to see a Miles movie instead. Like, I love Tom Holland, and I think he's doing a great job as Spider-Man. And I'm gonna say an unpopular opinion. I am not super big on Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. I have always felt like I like Tobey Maguire, but he plays a very specific type of character, and that character is smug. He can't help it. It's just who he is. It comes across in everything I've ever seen him in, and I find that not a very Peter Parker-y. Peter Parker should not feel like he actually feels like he knows everything. There should always be a tone of like self-deprecation there, because he's a smartass, but he also knows that he's like young. So having him sort of always looking like he knows the answer to everything didn't work for me. I like Tom Holland's Spider-Man. I also was I'm very disappointed that they didn't go with Miles Morales. I can like Tom Holland as Spider-Man and also have wished for Miles at the same time. I can be very, very bitter that Donald Glover did not get a chance to be Miles Morales. And be also very bitter that he's basically reduced to like a one-off reference. Like, I was happy to hear it, but I was like, wouldn't it have been nice if you could actually have Miles in this? It would have been nice if they had actually like acknowledged the backgrounds of any of the other characters too, because I think, wasn't like Silk referenced in there? Or was it someone else that got referenced that's like one of the other friends in the group? Maybe it wasn't Silk. Maybe it was. Was it Silk? You would know, Toshi, because you would pay attention to that. Anyway, my point being, the casting and stuff on some things just doesn't work for me. It doesn't work. But Merriman specifically, I was very disappointed. And I was like, it's frustrating when an actor you like gets miscast into a role that they really don't belong in. Because you're like, I want to love and support you. And yet. And yet.
This was not where you belonged.
Yeah, you shouldn't be in this role. You shouldn't be playing this character.
Or when you just end up with somebody like, what's his name? Benicio del Toro in The Last Jedi. I could not shake the sense of it. It wasn't a character, it was like a cameo.
Very much.
It was a cameo, but it was a cameo.
It was a weird,
hey,
like,
Benicio del Toro.
Look, it's
Star
Benicio
Wars.
del Toro, yeah.
Yeah, no.
Look, we made a role for Benicio del Toro in this movie.
And then they turned him into a South Park caricature of like, see, war is bad, okay?
Yeah.
That was ham-fisted.
There's a lot going on there, and it's not all even remotely good. I have. You didn't see it? Yes, that's exactly what I'm thinking of, Toshi. They mentioned an Asian girl named Cindy, which is it's gotta be, because I think the credits actually give her the correct last name.
All right, I think we're doing pretty solid here. That worked. It didn't overpower them.
Yay!
They looked filthy, which is what they're supposed to. This entire contingent is on its way to death.
That happens.
It's from a very specific point in the story, and yeah, these guys are all betrayed, and they basically all die.
So sad. All right, now. Oh, there's a metal plate on top of that, isn't there? Well, let's go in and put that in. think it's also frustrating to feel like I said, someone like being miscast. Similarly, I often feel like the assumption is if you like a certain thing, you can't also acknowledge the problems with it. Like, for example, I like Tom Holland as Spider-Man, but I can acknowledge that I would have liked to have Miles. But I think there's often like this assumption that if you like a thing, you can't also have wanted a different thing. I can like it and have wanted it to be different. I contain multitudes. Wow!
What?
Have you seen Infinity War?
I have not seen it yet.
I can't say your joke out loud. I'm so sorry,
behind.
Toshi.
I'm sorry.
Dang.
By the time I get out of work, I'm done for the day.
Wow. Well, I can't tell you what Toshi just said, but it
sounds like it was amazing.
dark.
I feel like I'm missing out.
It was dark.
Okay.
It's, man.
I know people die. That's all.
Well, a lot. So Toshi asked me after I saw the movie, because I saw it opening night. Said, so who dies? And I said, hold on, I have to make a list. Well, first I was like, are you sure you want me to tell you? Like, are you sure? Do you actually want to know? And he was like, yeah, just tell me. And I was like, okay. So I made a list and told him. Yeah, I'm not saying that out loud. It's a good joke, though. It's a really good joke.
I feel like I've missed out on something now. That's
Someday
all right.
you'll see
survive.
Infinity War, and if you remember to ask me, I'll try to remember what the joke was. It's really good.
I still need to see Black Panther. I still need to see Deadpool 2.
Deadpool 2 is fantastic. In many ways, there are things I don't love about it, but the jokes are solid. Mad about Infinity War? Mostly mad. I don't know if mad's the word. Because I know they're going to undo a lot of stuff. I know they're going to change things. I don't think I'm mad at the movie. I'm mad at the fans. I'm mad at, like, that chick in the movie theater who was, like, yelling at other people in the theater for, like, specifically about that thing. Okay, so it was the one that, like, made me sad because of the way they did it. But they're gonna undo stuff. There's no way with the success of Homecoming, no. They killed off a lot of people, and they're gonna undo a lot of those deaths. That's just a given at this point. Like, most of those are not gonna stick.
Well, I think that comes back to your point earlier with Abnett's actually fielded questions about this from fans and said, why did you kill off this one character in particular?
Yeah.
And his response was, did you care? And that's good.
Yeah.
I did my job as an author. If that character's demise touched you...
Sometimes I feel like a death is done for shock value, and it's like, yes, you care, but then it's like, could you have accomplished me caring about something in that moment without ending that character's storyline in a way that makes me feel like it was a little cheap? Because there are definitely character deaths that I'm like, they deserved better. Like, they deserved a better death. Like Akbar.
Yes, that he does a pretty solid job of balancing. The one that comes to mind that he gets that question about is pretty. The whole series it follows just a regular guard unit in the 40K universe. So they're all just humans. They're not special, they're not Space Marines. And yeah, they end up, one of the characters gets murdered by another member of the unit. And he'll finally get his later, a couple books later, and it's very satisfying when he finally does. But
that's not the sort of death that would
Yeah.
make me annoyed.
yeah, no, it's
I'm talking
don't
like
see
a
it
death
coming.
that's more of a plot point than a character point.
Yeah.
It's like, so Melanie Ron, going back to my bloodthirsty favorite author, she kills a lot of characters. It's just a thing she does, and she's very good at it. And there are deaths where she kills someone off to make a point. Yeah, you stop caring about characters when you know the author will kill someone just because they're cared about, is what Toshi says.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, Toshi.
I think that what has kind of balanced that aspect out is they are fundamentally, in this book, it's a combat game. You know not everyone's going to make it through.
Right, yeah. And there are definitely books that I've read where I've been like, I know, and like, okay, spoilers for a movie that's been out for like over a year. Rogue One. You know those characters aren't making it out.
Mm-hmm.
Because you know that, like, it's a prequel movie where none of those characters exist in the later movies. So you kind of know things are going to go south. And you know that there are going to be, if not everyone, definitely a lot of characters are not going to make it out of there. And I accept that.
Right.
But then there are definitely times when you're like, that character death was in there, like, just to mess with me. Not because it was necessary for the plot, not because they needed, you know, me to feel something right in that moment, but more to, like, show me who's boss, almost. And that feels frustrating and annoying. And I feel like Joss definitely goes there on a regular basis. And I don't love it.
Yeah, the second to last book, two characters that people liked a lot finally didn't make it. But they go out like bosses, and at the same time they were both in many ways very long suffering. So okay. I'm not thrilled about it, but I accept this.
I accept it, yeah.
So
there's a difference there to me.
In the last one, a whole bunch of people get taken out.
See, I don't follow Final Fantasy Toshi, so I'm not as familiar with that. Continue, Jim.
But some of it was kind of in between. So it's driving a new plot point. Is that he kind of had to make some changes, and he sort of had to I think thin the herd on some characters that just really weren't going to fit in where they were going.
Gotcha.
Some of them needed to be kind of cold, and some of them was like, he's just not going to be able to run around with these same folks without it actually causing problems for the plot.
Yeah.
So it wasn't exactly like, oh, yay, they're not with us anymore, but I think, okay, I see what you kind of had to do here. I think we're one book away from should be the last book in the series.
Gotcha.
And then all the subsequent spin-offs, which he's done a bunch of one-off books that take different aspects of the greater campaign, and some of them are really good because it gives you looks into different parts of their world that you don't otherwise see.
All right. I gotta think about colors. That.
Uh-oh, the music stopped.
The music did stop. Hey, Andy, the music stopped.
Andy!
Andy!
Fix it!
He's busy downstairs. Is that my phone?
I have no idea.
No. Is that Andy's phone? That was Andy's phone. Can't see your phone, Andy.
Find my iPhone.
to your Nintendo Switch console. Andy, your phone stopped playing music. I don't know if you can hear me. Like, I don't know if you're watching the stream with sound.
Oh, I'll go down. I have to stand up anyway. Yes. My back and neck are starting to lock up.
Ah.
Here.
No, I did not check with Andrew whether he wanted more of a yellowy gold or an old gold. Maybe I can mix the two and get something in the middle. That is more the color I wanted. So Andrew has asked for this character to be, let me pull up my little notes. We talked about skin tone, gonna go with a rosy skin tone. This character is a half elf, but he did not know he was a half elf for a while. He wasn't really aware. He was adopted. I need to ask about hair color. I need to send Andrew a message on Facebook. Because there actually is hair visible on the back there, like the nape of the neck. And eyebrows are visible, so. And bare hands, so we're gonna do that. Oh, there's the music back. I need to send Andrew a message. Wait, what is this? Toshi's showing me a thing. just realized there was... So, this character, this figure is from Hero Forge. It belongs to a friend, my friend Andrew. There we go. Better. And it's his character for the campaign he's in right now. And it's, I have notes on what he wants for color scheme and stuff. We went over yesterday, and I just realized I did not ask about hair. So I need to ask about hair. I think the only way I have of getting in touch with him is on Facebook, which I really, really hate Facebook. A lot. I hate Facebook Messenger. I hate Facebook. God, Facebook. New message to Andrew.
We've restored the music.
I noticed.
And I'm gonna eat my chips before I re-mic.
Before you mic up?
Everyone doesn't have the horror of listening to
It's a
me
good
eat
call.
chips.
It's a good call. So I've just noticed that there is hair visible under the bandana at the back, and hair color is not something we went over. So I have to find out from Andrew what color hair he wants.
Multicolor.
Yeah. Mermaid hair.
How old is the character?
I don't know. Young, relatively speaking, I'm fairly sure. I just sent him a message on Facebook, so. Much as I despise Facebook, can't seem to quit it because it's the only place I have to contact certain folks. I do refuse to put it on my phone though. It did, it has a like known bug with some iPhone stuff where it will, without really like asking you in a way that makes it clear what it's doing, it will wipe your contacts and replace them with your Facebook contacts.
What?
Yeah. It did it to Andy. So if you don't have someone as a Facebook contact, you lose your contact information for them. And if you do have someone on Facebook, but they don't have like a phone number, you lose the phone number. So I refuse to put the app on my phone. Because I definitely have people that I've gotten phone numbers for that are not on Facebook, or that like there's not a reason why I would connect with them on Facebook, but I do want to make sure I have their numbers. So I am not about to lose that. Blue eyes and brown hair. Thank you. He's not watching. That's good. I already have brown out. I should probably be using a smaller brush for this.
Someone's coming.
I can hear the music
Hey.
coming from my phone, but it's not in
Not coming through.
the chat. Here we go. Cool. Fixed it.
Excellent.
Okay, there we go. Now that no one has to listen to the horror of me eating.
No more chip crunch in the mic.
No. As someone who lives with a roommate who eats open mouth and deliberately lip smacks the entire time.
Oh,
Oh yeah. I will not subject other people to the same treatment.
it's so horrible.
That's some of the better qualities. That is Mountain Dew. Now, oh, I should change my water out.
Ooh, yes.
I have failed. Because that is gross. On the plus side, the mud paint does work.
Yeah. Yeah, that looks cool. Yeah, I haven't played any of the played with any of the like textury paints. Those are very cool. So the other thing, Toshi, that Disney is doing in conjunction with Rick Riordan, so Toshi is saying this not in chat, but I'm going to say it out loud because I want to share it with anyone watching. Rick Riordan wrote the Percy Jackson books, and did, Greek mythology with Percy Jackson, and then sort of veered off into like Roman stuff for a little bit. And that's all very cool, and that looks really good. And that's awesome. But then he also did like Egyptian mythology and Norse mythology, and that's all well and good, but Rick Riordan is as white as I am, and maybe not the best person to be doing like living mythologies, like living pantheons that people are still worshiping and super into, that he's not part of the culture for. Or like just in general, pantheons that like are ancient but have a culture still associated with the people who worshipped them. What I'm saying is that he's white, like me.
Did I miss something?
You did. I'm talking about Rick Riordan. And
Who's this?
the guy who wrote the Percy Jackson books.
Okay.
He is working, so his publisher is owned by Disney,
Okay.
Hyperion. And he is working with them to now do an imprint with his name on it, but the authors are people from the cultures that the mythology in the books is about. So, like, there's one coming out that's like Chinese mythology, and it's an actual like Chinese American author writing the book who has a cultural connection to the mythology that they're writing about, which I think is super cool. And it's also a really good way for someone like Rick Riordan, who has made a name for himself and become very famous, which is hard in children's literature, to use his fame and his notoriety and the name he has built to highlight other authors who otherwise might find it really difficult to get their foot in the door. Mm-hmm. And to get them in with Disney is enormous, because Disney is definitely, the gorilla in the room. You make your name with them, they'll make things happen. So I think that's really awesome, and I'm really excited about those books coming up. And working where I work, I have a lot of like either first or second generation Chinese American families coming in to my library, and it's really awesome to be able to tell them not only are these books coming out and they're going to see wide distribution because they're being put out by Disney with Rick Riordan's name on them, but also they're being written by a Chinese American author, and that's super, super cool for those kids and those families to hear. Every single family that I've mentioned it to, the kids have just been like, super excited! So that's really cool. That's a fun part of my job, is that I get to tell kids about stuff like that, mm-hmm. and make them very happy and excited. And I love doing that. I love like making a kid aware of something that they will end up like absolutely loving. That's a fun part of my job, as opposed to like having to tell people that their cards are blocked because they like have a book they didn't return like 3 years ago that they forgot about. That's not fun. Necessary, but not fun.
They know they didn't return it.
Well, frequently what happens is, and this is like totally legit, someone will be like, oh yeah, I have a library card, go ahead and use it, you can check out a book on it. And then the friend doesn't return the book, but then you tell the patron like what the title of the book was, and they're like, I didn't take that. And you're like, it was checked out on this date, and it was checked out at this location, and they're like, oh, I had a friend with me and I let her use my card because she didn't have hers on her. And you're like, okay, well then you need to tell your friend. And they're like, oh, can't you like have her bring it back? And I'm like, no, it's your card. And that makes you responsible for the book. We try to warn people, like we try to be nice about it and not be like, friend's gonna screw you over. But we try to be nice about it and like explain to people that if they let their friend use their card, that does put them on the hook for whatever their friend is checking out. It doesn't always deter anyone.
rarely does.
Getting the primer onto the back of his tunic was really difficult, and I was trying to be really careful about the primer. I didn't want it to go on too heavy because I was using a brand I don't normally use.
Brush on or spray?
Spray.
That's definitely hit or miss.
I normally use spray primer, so...
Well, just the brands. The one
Yeah.
performs great, and then...
And that was why I was being really careful about it, and I was like, I don't want to hit this too heavily to make sure that it's going like up behind onto the tunic on the back, but I also, like, because I want to make sure that it hits as much of the figure as possible, but I don't want it to hit so heavy.
Unfortunately, I've found that if the primer is good and it's not super expensive, those two categories mean that you will never find it again.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And you will hoard that can until it's dead. And then, yep, nope, we don't carry that brand anymore. Of course, why? Because it worked?
Yeah.
And it wasn't $15 a can?
Turns out it was horribly toxic. Great.
Well, okay, I mean, if that's the case...
Can't I just have it anyway? I'll wear a mask. I'll be fine.
Yeah, that's how you end up working like I do in an asbestos-filled building with a response of, well, just don't pull the rugs up. Great.
Yeah.
I'm excited about this concept. All right, there we go. On the plus side, it can't burn down.
That's a good point.
Actually, it's usually a stumbling block for us on our daily hate of the building, but
Yeah.
we've repeatedly discussed Miltoning the facility. This is the last straw. I burn the building down. Like, no, we can't.
Building down.
What's that?
I'm gonna.
Doop, doop.
And then there are these squirrels, and they were married, and I don't get to watch the squirrels anymore. And,
I mean,
they
someone who
moved my
enjoys squirrels,
office.
I understand the sentiment there.
So do I.
I would have been angry too.
And I don't like the staples anymore, so I asked if I could have the staples.
It's still a great film. I did find that kind of like Dilbert, the cartoon, like it becomes less funny once you realize that you're living it.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
oh, this is way too real. That color should not have gone on there. That's not good. Okay. Oops. Oh well.
Getting in there, getting in the butt. You gotta get up there in the butt.
Phrasing?
You gotta do it. So one of my earliest forays into miniature painting was the figures from the game Talisman.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I realized early on, I was painting like the figures that come with the base game, and one of them is the assassin. And the assassin has a crotch that just keeps going up. You get under like the tunic, and you're like, wow, your legs just, they go right into your waist. It just keeps going. It's a little disconcerting.
every once in a while you kind of models it. When you were designing this, did you actually look at a human
Yeah.
or the animal that it's,
That you're attempting to, yeah.
or the character? I have a large collection of Yeti products. Mostly the Bumble. Yes, he's kind of the iconic. He's also the first white Yeti, oddly enough. Traditional.
Weird.
What's that?
That is weird.
In traditional depictions from the Himalayas, the Yetis are gray or brown.
Huh.
The Rankin Bass,
Like
Rudolph.
Abominable Snowman.
He
yeah.
was the first one that was depicted as being all white, and somehow it just kind of stuck.
That is okay. So one, that's awesome, and two, that's a great bit of trivia to have in my head. I like being a keeper of a lot of trivia because you would be amazed the amount of random trivia that comes up working in a library.
Yeah, I know. I know quite a bit about Yetis. Some people would say it's an obsession, but whatever. They're entitled to their opinions. But I've encountered every once in a while I'll run into stuff that this is. It was originally a puppet. Like, did you look at the character before you created this? Because it doesn't really look remotely like Bumble. How did you mess that up? Like, it's not even like you had to get him to sit still or something for the photo.
So there's one of the figures that I've done from Talisman. Oh man, the fighter. So one, the pose that the guy is in, he looks like he's taken a hit. Like,
oh, the one that's in the weird
like,
riposte?
Yeah. This is the one where he doesn't actually have a knife. In the figure, he's holding a knife right here. The illustration, he doesn't have it. It was like, or no, it's the other way around. And it's like, it was like their justification for him being in that pose, basically. It's a bad pose.
If it's the one I'm thinking
It's the
of,
one you're
yeah,
thinking
he was supposed to be in like a riposte position, and it just
No, that's the fencer.
okay.
That's the fencer, and he's like leaning.
Yeah, it's really in his rapier's like in him, kind of.
Actually, you know what? I have the character cards. I don't have the figures with me, but I have the cards.
It was that one was more understandable. It was just clearly difficult to sculpt that.
Yeah.
For a mass production system. Unless you want to start getting into figures you have to assemble first.
I thought he was just generic fighter, but no, it's, you know.
Well, not when you refer to him as generic. Of course he's not showing up now. I hurt his feelings.
That's gonna bother me.
What was I gonna do next? Oh god, I don't remember.
There's the assassin. So like the actual figure, this little bit comes down all the way over, and his legs just keep going up. They just keep going. There's the figure for the assassin, or there's the card. And you see he's got like an area. In the figure, these little shirt tails here, these tunic bits, come all the way across, and his legs underneath they keep going to like
infinity and beyond.
Yeah. They're like up to his waist. It's very disconcerting. This is really weird. I could have sworn he was just under fighter. Because there are ones in here that I finished. So it's not that this was the horrible one. His thighs in the figure are fused together.
I remember that one.
It's the minstrel. God, I hated painting him. I should go back to these guys. I just had so many other things to paint. Oh, this is really weird. Yeah, the swashbuckler, I think, is who you were thinking of. Or he's,
No.
No. Then it's the other guy.
Yeah.
Whose card is just flat out. There he is, warrior.
Yes.
So the picture of him, he has this he doesn't have a dagger here. His hand is sort of behind. It's meant to be like over here. Just sort of hanging. But they yeah, I know, Andy, Fallout figures soon. But in the figure, either whoever made the figure looked at that picture and was like, what's his hand doing over there? Or didn't realize that that's a belt. And they added a dagger right in front of his waist. So his hand, instead of being back here, is here and holding a dagger like right at his belly. Which seems like a dangerous place to be holding a dagger on yourself, but whatever. Yeah, Fallout figures soon, I know. They're coming. I think I got the whole back. Maybe. Yeah, I think I did. Sweet.
Okay, is the truck complete? Or is
The truck needs detail work.
Needs
I
to
figured
dry.
I would finish the base stuff. I'd put like the base stuff on it and then go like do base work on this guy and then go back and do detail work on the truck.
Oh,
No?
how did you get... This is what I get for not looking. Two of you? That is not okay. There is an irony that lore-wise, if anyone did not want to get dirty, it's these guys.
Yeah.
But
Sad.
no.
There we go. That's the shade of gray I wanted.
What's that?
There we go. Just got to get like the right angle to get under there.
There we are. I need to get Derek to come up here and do this.
We really do.
Might actually paint some Necrons.
We definitely need Derek to come join us at some point. Though definitely, Dan, anytime I'm up here painting, whether I'm streaming or not, you're welcome to join me.
Thank you. If nothing else, I try to just get out of my house on Saturdays. Like, I can't sit around all day.
Yeah.
And my going in, so for me, insanely early has just ruined. I can't sleep in anymore.
Yeah, Andy can't sleep in much anymore these days, which I know makes him sad.
And the humidity did not help.
God, no, so bad. It's disgusting in my apartment right now. Fortunately, it'll be cooler tomorrow, because tomorrow I am outdoors at a Pride Festival in Quincy all afternoon. Because the library has a table. I am staffing it.
Is that good or bad?
I volunteered and I'm getting overtime, and I was excited to be able to go to Quincy's first Pride, so good.
Okay, excellent. I ran in this last night.
Oh!
It was not the best. Because it was like 73% humid.
Yeah, like I went outside so because I'm tabling at Pride, because I've got a table and I have to staff it, and we have to bring like books and a laptop and like all this stuff. Because we're bringing all this stuff, it all had to go in my car yesterday because I'm not working today. And we have to be there at 11:30 tomorrow, but the library doesn't open till 1, so I can't go get stuff early beforehand. So normally you'd be like, okay, I'll go into the library like half an hour before I have to be at this thing, pick up all the stuff, and then go over to the thing I have to be at. No, can't do that because it's a Sunday. And the custodians won't be in the library until like 10 minutes before the library opens tomorrow, which is fine. But it means that I can't like just go into the library and pick stuff up.
Right.
So I had to put it out in my car yesterday, and I walked out the door to go into the parking lot to like carry stuff, and it was like walking into a wall of soup.
Yeah, it was unpleasant. I made it, but
Yeah, I couldn't bring myself to do that. I got home and I was like, nope, not jogging, not doing it.
3.2 miles.
Yeah, I can't. No.
That's why there wasn't an even number. Now that makes more sense. I thought they weren't lining up correctly because people wouldn't want to come join the rest of the group.
That would explain it. All right, that works. And then we're gonna do this really dark gray for his cloak as well.
Oh, we should put the other D&D figures. Done some more of those.
Oh, you know what? I actually had to take them out of my bag, and they're on my table, so I don't have them with me today, but I'll bring them next week. We don't need them until week like after next, so.
I thought the sorcerer wizard there came up pretty solid.
He did. He came out really nicely. So,
Psyched about that.
just a little note about that. So last week, because I left my trucks at home, we didn't stream, but Dan did paint a D&D figure for the D&D program Andy and I run at my workplace, which was really nice, and it does look awesome. Even if like the kid who made that the character that like we did it for doesn't end up using it, some kid is going to see that figure and be like, I need it, and they're going to be super excited to use it. They'll fight over it.
Oh, that just got dark.
They will. They'll be like, no, I get to use it, and I'll have to make them like roll a die or something. I'd be like, okay, guys, roll a d20. High roll gets to use it. That's how we solve problems here.
It's just you can make them get creative. Be like, okay, you get 2 minutes to look at the figure, and whichever one tells me a better story about where that robe came from gets to use it.
That's such a good idea.
Let's see how creative you can be. There's nothing like the expertise of a 20-year-old on how traffic works.
Yeah, on speed traps. So there's a speed trap on Quincy Shore Drive near where I live. And I'm always tempted to like go over and thank the cop who's manning it, because people come rocketing over the like exit from the Neponset Circle onto Quincy Shore Drive. And it is super dangerous and super hard to like merge in there. So I'm always really glad when
near Morrissey.
Is
this where I'm thinking of?
You know when like you're coming onto the very beginning of Quincy Shore Drive from the Neponset Circle?
I'm not sure. I know how to get to South Boston from one of them. I don't know if I travel that way.
It's just a nasty road that people speed on a lot. So I'm always fairly happy when like someone who's doing like 60 on that road gets pulled over because it's a 30-mile-an-hour limit. Actually, it's 35 at that end, but still, you shouldn't be doing 60 on it one way or the other. But people frequently are.
Yeah, my street is a one-way that people use as a cut-through, and there's always somebody ripping up there. You know, people live here, walk and run. There's a variety of critters, both natural and people-owned. And can you slow down? Thanks.
Yeah. Could you not kill me, maybe? That would be cool. That would be super cool.
That's better. Now we're at completion. I'm glad I found them now.
Yeah, instead of later.
Wait, what?
Where did they go? They went on an excursion.
Found the only functional shower too. Apparently, the only one's not covered in a variety of things at this point.
Viscera.
Some of them do have some blood.
I just like the word viscera. It's a good word. Good enough. There's no way I can fit a brush. I need like an angled brush to really get in there. So I still maintain that GW. Those pride bits are fantastic. Look at those little flags. Thank you, Andy, and thank you, Toshi. Look, Toshi, you're one of the bit bosses with your one bit.
What's the GW?
They're missing a golden opportunity to have sponges on brush handles to do small sponge painting.
Interesting.
For texture. Because I have used sponge paint, like I've done marbling effects with sponges. And like modeling and stuff. You want to use a sponge for some of that to do that texture, but getting a small enough sponge is really annoying, which is why I have that.
Yeah.
But doing it like this is really hard. If it was on a handle, I could like dip it in water and not get my hands super wet.
I feel like that's something you have to make yourself. I don't think it would last long enough for them to legitimately sell it without it seeming like
They could sell it and have them be replaceable sponges
fun.
with different like grains. You know?
Forget GWs, market this yourself.
I know. I got to do it.
Because if it's from GW, it'll be like $80 a sponge.
But see, that's the thing. I'm like, GW loves money. You'd think that they would have gotten on, you'd think someone in their vicinity would have thought of this and marketed it to them and sold it prior to now. Yeah.
I mean, someone who's attempted to shave pipe cleaners to create fur for a model, which kind of worked. It turned out to be way more difficult and time-consuming to actually shave the pipe cleaners than I had thought.
I saw a really cool felting technique done on Face Off. Have you ever watched Face Off? So it's a makeup, like a special effects makeup contest, like reality competition that Sci-Fi does every year.
Okay, I think I've seen bits and pieces.
It's pretty cool. Like it's. I don't know if I entirely always buy who goes home, like, you know, not having been sort of predetermined. But you do get to see some really awesome special effects makeup and stuff. So I'm willing to run with that. Like, I'm willing to give them that. It's a reality competition, so, you know, you're always going to have that aspect of it. So, but you do get to see some really cool effects and stuff, and you get to learn about how a lot of, like, that stuff is done. There we go. God, that was a hard angle to work with. But you get to learn a lot about how this stuff is, like, put together. And one of the effects that I saw, it was a woman who was doing a silicone mask. Or no, maybe it was foam rubber. But she had made, like, the facial prosthetic for her her model. And then she just took, like, a razor that you would shave your face with, or your legs, or whatever.
Okay.
And went over a piece of felt with it, and just shaved. And then tipped it onto a thing. And then coated the face of the mask in glue. And, like, basically blew it onto it, almost. Like, she basically just sort of flocked it, almost. And it made the mask, the facial prosthetic, look like it was animate felt. Because she was making a doll.
Okay.
Like, she was trying to make her model look like a doll face.
Right.
And I was like, that's such a great idea, but even if you weren't using, like, foam rubber or something, if you weren't using a facial prosthetic, if you were just trying to make something look felt-like, that's a great way to do it, is to shave some of the fibers off of felt and then coat what you want with glue, and then just basically sprinkle or like blow them onto it so that it's a gentle thing. It's like, what a great idea. That's why I like that show. Like, it's a reality competition, so it's, you know, you're gonna sort of get what you get. Right. But at the same time, there are some really awesome makeup techniques and, like, special effects techniques that you get to see on display. All right. I think we're going to do...
All right, let's get this. Let's see. Whoop.
Oh, that's you. I was like, is that my phone?
Nope. I don't need life insurance. I don't know why you keep calling me. I do not have a spouse or children. No one. I have enough money for you to do whatever you're going to do with my corpse. I don't really care. I'm pretty sure we don't allow excarnations, so... Which is too bad, because I think animals and crows and stuff would enjoy me one final time.
There's a burial type that I've recently learned about that's a mushroom shroud, basically.
Okay.
They put you in a body bag, basically, that has like mushroom spores, and they'll grow off of your corpse. Like, that actually sounds cool. I'd be up for that. I don't know how I feel about brown with this.
What's that?
Brown boots. I don't know how I feel about them.
Well, I mean, it's just a wide variety of brown. So what?
Yeah.
Which
I mean,
brown
I'm using a very dark, cool-toned brown.
I think I've got a couple leather colors here.
I'm just not sure, like, with the rest of the armor being all, like... Because the rest of his stuff is all, like, blacks and grays and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't want to just do black boots.
Yeah.
But I'm already doing, like, dark gray for a lot of the other stuff.
Right, you start to get overwhelmed with the same palette.
Right. So I
But-
wanted to do something a little bit of contrast.
Too drastic a change is also very apparent.
Yeah.
Oh, red. That's an interesting choice.
It's not too bad now that it's got most of the boot.
Oh, yeah, no, that's a good one.
I actually want to do the cobblestones before I finish doing his boots because it's a textured base, so I feel like I need to paint the base so that when I do the shoe, like, I don't end up with gray bits onto the boot.
Mm. Nightwish?
No. Though I understand why you would think so. Because it does have a very Nightwish feel to it. I almost saw them in concert. Notice the almost.
Yeah, I heard that.
Had tickets. All their instruments didn't make it onto the plane with them, and were still in Mexico, and they were in Connecticut. And that's where I was for the show. So, show was postponed, but, like, they weren't going to be able to be back in Connecticut because they were on a tour. They couldn't just, like, do it the next night.
Right.
So they were like, oh, we'll do it, like, in a year. And I was like, yeah, well, I came down to Connecticut for this. I'm, like, staying with a friend for the weekend for this particular show. So, that was a bummer. But, no, this is, all of the music that we are listening to is by an artist named, his artist's name is Miracle of Sound. He is a musician named Gavin Dunn. He is from Ireland. And he does movie and video game inspired music in addition to, like, his own original. Like, all of his stuff is original, but a lot of it is inspired by video games and movies and stuff.
Oh, he has a really cool Batman song, didn't he? Like Rise?
Yes. That is him. I really like Gav. He's absolutely amazing in concert, but he doesn't play concerts generally for a couple of reasons. One, because concerts are, like, time-consuming and difficult, and he would rather be, like, actually making more music. And also because he lives in Ireland, and getting enough people together in one place where he can also be is tricky. And he also has a heart condition. And concerts are stressful, so he doesn't like to risk it.
Mm-hmm.
But I've seen him in concert twice. He played at both of the Escapist Expos, back when the Escapist was a thing.
It's no longer?
The company has basically been, like, there's no one running, like, minding the store, basically. It's, like, being run by fans at this point. It's a little weird, which is a pity. It was bought out by Alloy Entertainment. Alloy is Alloy's a media company that I have opinions about. I'll put it that way.
That was the same people. Escapists was ones who had zero punctuation, wasn't it?
Yes, it's like their only continuing content. Like it's the only thing that's still like running. That's one of their earlier content pieces. They had a whole bunch of really cool stuff. They had Movie Bob, Movie Bob's a little more angry than I really want to engage with these days, but I get it. He went viral. His review of Pixels went viral, and he got a reputation as that guy who's angry about movies.
Okay.
And he ran with it, and I get that. 100% get it. But it's not always fun to engage with. So while I understand it, it's not something I really want to partake in all the time. Bleh, that was blocked on, wasn't it? But they also had the Jimquisition. That was Jim Sterling, and Jim's real cool. I like Jim. Working on his professional wrestling persona these days, which I'm super happy for him because he seems to be having a grand time of it. And they also were where we discovered Loading Ready Run, whom we love. And they broke away from the Escapists several years back. More than several years back. They broke away a while back. But they were doing a show called Unskippable.
Okay.
And they were doing sketch comedy on there at the time. And we loved we had found them through Desert Bus, and then we realized, I knew about Desert Bus, I knew Desert Bus was a thing. And I had watched Desert Bus. And then we watched some Unskippable after Graham and Paul guested on an episode of Zero Punctuation. And I was like, wait, these are the guys who do Unskippable. These are the guys, aren't they from the guys who do Desert Bus? And then I looked it up, and yes, they were. So I was like, that's super cool. They seem like neat guys. We should watch their other stuff.
Yeah, I remember I used to watch the Zero Punctuation on a fairly regular basis, but as a non-console person, like I didn't know most of the games after a while, so I'm like, oh, okay. The Spoonie Experiment had some good movie reviews too. The Your Hunter from the Future and Wing Commander is amazing. But
this is such an angle.
How do you cast the movie this way? Freddie Prinze Jr. could not command wings at a KFC.
Wow.
That movie is not as bad as
it's made out to be.
It requires some significant suspension of disbelief, but if you can do that, like, it's fun. If nothing else, it has some interesting moments, but
yeah, the Escapist was fun. We went to both Escapist Expos, which were their little conventions that they held in Durham, North Carolina.
That's a bit of a haul, yeah.
Yeah, it was a bit of a trip.
Seven-
But it was fun, actually. Durham's actually a really fun town.
17 or so hours, give or take.
We flew.
Oh, okay.
It's like a
I've
one and
driven
a
it.
half hour.
It's not fun.
It's like a 1.5 hour flight. It's real easy. So that's what we did. We flew down. We went to both Escapist Expos. We had a good time. Enjoyed ourselves. And then found out that, yeah, the Escapist had sold to Alloy. And Alloy is not great.
What's their deal?
I can't speak specifically to a lot of their like web media practices, though I know that they're pretty bad.
Okay.
But I can speak to how they handle their books. And you might say, books? I thought they did web stuff. No, they have their hands in everything, and that's part of the problem.
Okay.
To give an example that my young adult lit professor gave, a book being published by like most publishers, let's say you have a scene, and this is like a specific quote from a book, and this is a specific quote from my professor. In other books, you may have like a teenager who's angry at her mother run into her bedroom and bury her face in her pillow and then inhale the scent of like the fabric softener that her mother uses, and it like bringing up a memory. Mm-hmm. If your book is being published by Alloy, they do product placement. So she runs into her room and buries her face in her pillow.
This moment brought to you by Tide.
And inhales the scent of Febreze that her mother sprays on everything. So they do this like they don't do generic names, or they find ways to insert products. That's Alloy.
I feel like we're back to the beginning of the day here with the product placement mockery in Wade's World. Mm-hmm. Choice of a new generator.
Yeah, it's very much that sort of stuff. All right, so now I think I'm actually going to do black for his like gauntlets and armor pads, because I'm going to do gold detailing on those. I think the brown boots work for the boots, but given what Andrew told me, I think we're going to go with
Nice. Yeah, I think the black will be a good offset to the...
That's what I'm thinking. I think like black as like just the shoulder guards and the wrist guards, and then have like gold detailing on those.
The question is it matte, like Batman, or gloss? Shiny?
So here's the thing. I'm going to end up varnishing it, and I'm probably just going to use a spray varnish on it to get in all the nooks and crannies.
Yep.
That means if Andrew wants it glossy, I can hit it with a gloss coat after the varnish. So then I can show him and have him decide.
Because if he didn't have the bandana on that he described, I would say matte all the way. But like, where there's a certain, we say flamboyance, like I could totally see the shiny, like I polish my armor intensely.
Yeah, like I make sure that like there's a nice mirror shine to this sort of attitude there. So yeah, I figure I'll show him and he can decide what he wants in terms of gloss level.
Speaking of which, now we're going to test some other theories here, because this ground needs to look wet. I don't know how that's going to go.
That's going to be fun.
Well, I've got a gloss varnish and a satin varnish, so we're going to do a little test run on both there, see what looks good.
And I didn't actually like the gold the two golds that I had available to me, so I've mixed them.
I've also got brass, bronze, and old gold here.
I think, I like the gold that I've ended up with.
Yeah.
Because that's too bright.
Yeah, it's got a good cloth.
That's too coppery, so...
And it's cloth, right?
Yeah, it's meant to be like
totally,
cloth of gold sort of deal.
Yeah, the Vallejo metallics are excellent.
Yeah.
Speaking of product
These
placement,
are,
if you want to send me free samples, that'd be great.
This is Reaper.
Reaper's also good.
Yeah, I've been very happy with the Reaper metallics, honestly. They go on nice. I tend to default to Shadowed Steel for a lot. It's just a really good all-use sort of deal.
Vallejo has, gunmetal gray is a go-to. Natural steel, oily steel.
Oily.
They have a gunmetal blue that I don't think I have anything that I've worked with. I really, really love. It's a dark metallic blue, and it just has a great effect on a lot of different armor looks. When I did a bunch of the Bones dwarves, all of their armor was that. Yeah, I thought they came out pretty good.
And he definitely wanted a metallic shield, so. Things seem to be getting a little noisier downstairs as the Battle Bond folks show up. So for the sake of anyone watching, this weekend is the release of Battle Bond, which is a new Magic format and set. It's a set that's meant to be drafted by pairs. So the idea is that you play it, it's like a set that was built for two-headed giant format, which I think is pretty cool. I personally am not a two-headed giant player. I find it very difficult to mesh my playing style with someone else's playing style. Like Andy and I have very different play styles when we play Magic. So we are not always great partners for a two-headed giant game because we just do not play necessarily in compatible ways. Not a criticism, just an observation. Like I'm not like, oh, Andy doesn't play. No, he plays perfectly fine.
Right.
He plays perfectly fine for himself. Like he plays the way he wants to play. It just doesn't necessarily work as a two-headed giant strategy with the way I play.
Watching team games where people don't get along is
not fun.
Well, Codenames was a great.
I love Codenames.
It's a great game with the right people, or either everybody needs to already know each other, or no one can know each other.
Right? Yeah. Having played a lot of it at PAX. Yeah.
Yeah, we had a couple of games of that where at the end of it, you're like, okay, so you said that, what were you thinking? Like, oh, well, this obviously is like, only you would get that reference.
Yeah. So, okay, I had an experience playing Codenames at PAX East that, this was a case of a father thinking he knew his son better than he actually ended up knowing his son, which was awkward.
This could get awkward. Yeah, all right, let's see where this is going to go.
So the way this ended up working out, the son, I forget what the clue was. It was like Halo. No, it was Halo. And the words that were on, it was like me, the father, and the son on a team, and the son was giving the clues. Mm-hmm. And I was like, and the son was probably like 12. Not the best judge of ages, but like knowing kids, I think this kid was probably about 12. And he gave the clue Halo 3, and we were like, well, Angel most likely is one of them because Halo. And there was one other that we were relatively sure of, and we could not figure out the third one. The third one was really tripping us up. We were like, we have no idea what this third one is. So I was like, helmet was a clue on the board, was a word on the board. Mm-hmm. And I was like, what if it's helmet? And his father was like, why? And I said, well, Halo is a game. It's a video game. And Master Chief is like the player character, basically. And he's known for having this helmet on. Like,
yeah, he doesn't take it off, right?
Right, like that's the whole thing. I said, but it really depends on your son knowing Halo. And
which is older than he is.
Right, and also he's like 12. Hey, Andrew, check it out. Is that in focus? What do you think?
Is that Kelble the Younger?
It is. He's in the chat. He looks really washed out on camera. I promise you his skin is a lot rosy. It's a lot warmer than he looks on camera. But yeah, so it was very dependent on like whether or not his son would know Halo as a game.
Yeah.
And I was like, we can't just ask the kid, do you know Halo? Because he's given the clues. We have to guess. So I was like, do you think it's likely that he knows the game? And he was like, no, he doesn't play those games.
I can already see where this is going to go.
And I was like, are you sure he, just because he doesn't play it doesn't mean he doesn't know it. You trust me? It's so cute. How do you feel about the gray and the gold and everything?
Oh, am I supposed to be looking? Sorry.
No, I'm asking Andrew because he's in the chat, so I'm just showing it off to the camera. But I was like, are you sure he really doesn't know that game? Because if he does, then it's 100% helmet. It was helmet. We did not get it that round. We went with statue or something, thinking that maybe it was a statue of an angel or something. I don't know. His father was pretty insistent. And the other team won that round or something. And his son was like, it was helmet! And I was like, okay. Of course it was. Of course it was helmet.
I don't even remember what the clue was when we played it, but it was it's something that literally.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Only you would get that.
Yeah. Did you have a nice pop? Thank you very much, Andrew. I'm very pleased with how it's coming out so far. The underneath part of his arm on his shield, his shield arm, is, it's pretty hard to reach. It's hard to get at. I'm doing my best, but his arm's a little wonky. I apologize.
That works.
So they're going to be... So I have a question for you, Andrew, if you're still in the chat. For the black like shoulder guards and arm guard, do you want that matte or glossy? Because what I can do is hit it with a gloss coat after I varnish, if you want it glossy. That is not a requirement. That is a preference.
Oops. That wasn't dry yet. And now I'm continuing to touch it and expecting different results.
Yeah. Maybe it's dry now.
Nope. No, not 10 seconds later. Still moist.
Moist. Into the mat? Cool, no problem. You're typing on your PS4? Dude, just hit me up on Facebook to answer questions. I'll see it.
Ooh, whoops. I didn't know it could do that.
Where's that nightshade? There it is. Whoa, hey, that was way more of that than I expected out of that bottle. That's okay. That's fine. That's fine.
Just had a whole round of that. Yeah, Arnold references.
There's that shadowed steel. We're going to do the interior of the shield in shadowed steel, and then I'm going to do a brighter metallic on the outside. I can't tell if I'm missing a spot. I am.
Ooh, there we go.
I think I got it. I have to go back over his hand, but that's fine. Hey.
Hey guys! Sorry, your music got yoinked.
Oh, it did.
I'm good at tech. Sometimes.
All right, Andrew, you can answer me on Facebook if it's easier, like off your phone or something. Shield. Gold metallic with. So here's my thinking. We can do gold around here with black around the center and the edging. We can do silver with black, silver with gold, like any combination of that. What do you think? Oh, hey.
Are you still hearing bit notifications and stuff?
Yes.
What's that? PC load letter. Apparently that's a uniquely American problem. I actually looked up what the reference was,
Yeah.
and it needs paper.
Yeah.
But it's something like some of the European companies refer to the paper size as letter size versus the our dimensional. So wherever they got it from, like, it makes perfect sense to them. They know exactly what to do. But when you gave it to someone who doesn't refer to it as such,
Painting on a Hero Forge mini versus plastic. I haven't painted on any metal figures yet, so I can't really speak to that. But I can tell you, I actually found the Hero Forge figure to be really easy to paint. It took the primer very nicely, and the primer actually showed up a lot of the detail. It brought out a lot of the molded, the sculpted detail, which was really cool. So I feel like that was a difference, but a positive difference, which was really nice. There's something very hard, in a way, about the 3D printed plastic. It's a different texture of plastic to be painting. That said, that's not a bad thing.
I haven't worked with any of those yet, but I've been told there is a definite difference between the price bands. If you get I think it's a $14 one, they do not take paint well. I think it's roughly $29, $30 ones are better for whatever reason. They accept the paint a lot better.
This is taking paint nicely. I know this isn't one of the like super expensive ones. And this is taking paint very, very nicely. So I'm quite happy with that.
Interesting.
Yeah, you always do the 20-ish version, Andrew? I would say this has been absolutely no problem to paint in terms of the actual like material. The only thing I'm not thrilled with is that there's some very tight places. But that's, I think, just the pose and the fact that the shield is sort of hiding. The shield and the cloak together make things a little tight in the back. But that's, I mean, that would be the same regardless of the material. Just if I had been angling things, I might have angled the shield a tiny bit out, or the cloak a tiny bit closer to his back. Not a big deal though, I got it.
Alright, that is much better.
Yeah, or paint before assembly. The thing is, this isn't like one that you assemble. This is a like 3D printed.
Yeah, they come ready to go.
Yeah, they're all done. Yeah, it would have been good if possible, but they're not with this particular figure.
I think we'll find a different pattern for those.
gold and silver. I'll see what I can do. Do you want gold for the main color and silver for the accent? I'm thinking the same sort of dark metallic that we did the blade in, not like bright silver. And I'm thinking sort of a silver gold hybrid for, which is what I do for like weathered metal. Dark metallic is the main and gold accent, maybe neat. Yeah, let's do that. That sounds really good to me.
Those went pretty well.
I just had a thought. I'm gonna do a thing.
Oh, okay. What do we got here?
So I'm using Nightshade as like a dark purple for this. I think what I'm gonna do is darken down the shadowed steel with black, but also a little bit of Nightshade.
Ooh, we get a little purple hue in there too.
Tiny bit of purple in there, just enough.
I like it.
So we'll do that. Okay, that looked like a lot of black, but it was a bubble.
Yeah. That looks better.
Excellent.
Well, the combination of the gloss and satin varnish gave the mud a still wet look. So. And the brown wash didn't overpower. It made them all dirtier, which was the intent, without wrecking, changing the color.
Nice.
All right. Now
It was like when it works.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a couple experiments with these. It was like, ooh, that did not have the desired results.
Yeah.
Now I need more little plastic dudes. Oh.
More little plastic.
Well, I've got to. Some of it I gotta wait. Yeah, too. Titanicus comes out allegedly in August, and that is definitely the shut up and take my money
Yeah.
starter set.
When the Fallout war game comes out, that's gonna like eat my wallet and my time.
They finally released actual photos of the models. It's like, yes, this is amazing. This is what we were hoping for.
Yeah. There, so it has just a little bit of like a purplish touch to it. And then we'll use this.
picture real quick.
You like it? I'm glad. I mean, if you didn't like it, I'd redo it, but... Ah! That totally didn't happen. That didn't happen at all.
I appreciate your saying all right. Compare those and like king, I guess. Not the guy with the it's not like I just this nigga just yelled, oh man, I'm gonna get red hot.
All right, there's the... I'm gonna work on the cobblestones because I want to get the ground done before I play more with the little magical swirly bits that are coming up out of the floor. I'm gonna start with the darker gray. And then work on highlighting them and basically work them up.
Attention Battleground players. As of this moment, I have only 2 people who are unpaired, not part of any team. That is David and Gabriel. Do you guys want to be in a team together?
Sure.
I need a team name.
David and Gabriel.
The tab of Cobalt Operation 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Let's get some purple in there, since I said I'd give you some purple details. Andrew, if you're still watching, how are you feeling about this? You like it very much? I'm so glad. I am so very glad that you like it.
Oh, very cool. Clip back in, review the new figure. All right. Nice.
I'm really pleased so
I
far.
like it.
Andrew's liking it, so.
Very cool.
So it's time for like detail work, like highlighting and stuff now.
The question I have, are there little sideburns in front of the elf ears?
See, I'm not sure if those are intentional.
Kinda looks
or
like
not.
there
They
is.
kind of looks like there are. You're right.
Is there anybody else who wants to sign
Fortunately,
up for Battle Bond before
I know
we
what
start
brown
the
I
meeting?
used for that. I used dark shadow for his hair, so. I used the same for his hair and his boots.
I am out of project stuff to do today now. Which is silly because I have a bunch of stuff at home that I should have brought.
Oops.
but it's getting late in the day, which is good. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looked a little odd.
Yeah,
it was something there, and it was clearly a little void. So, and
Attention battleground.
that's helping define the
Welcome to
the flesh
battleground
from the
release.
bandana a little more.
Yeah.
I like it.
Passing out the packs now. I'm going to call out the team names, and people should come up and pick up your packs.
I'm going to be very disappointed if there is not a Cobra Kai present right now.
One pre-release promo. The promo
Or
contains
I've just
2
shown my
cards.
age.
They are
One or the other.
cards that can be used in your deck. Does anybody have any questions about how a two-headed giant works?
Well, as long as they agree with each other and go the same direction,
You have
it'll
the
be
3D
fine.
file.
We're
So,
going to be building
yes,
2 40
there are
cards,
sideburns.
and then we're going to start matches.
thank you, Andrew.
Papa Bear's Honey Pot, come get your packs. Team Chogal. Shouty McBoatface. Alone Together. Paladin Paladins. Prestige Worldwide. David and Gabriel.
It works.
I think they were.
Land Sharks.
Land shark.
What's that?
Land shark.
Oh, I thought they said lamb chops.
Battle Brothers. Ask Dave Relive. And the Jamaican bobsled team.
Excellent.
All right, you may open your packs. You have 50 minutes. to
I have
build
not
your
watched
decks.
that in a long time. I should. I still remember the scene with they show them the video of bobsledding and they turn the lights back on, like most of the room is empty. Like the look the rest of the Planet Express ship crew gives the professor when he explains that he booked them on the Space Titanic.
Yeah.
That's right, Kip. Asteroids, the icebergs of space. How does the truck come in?
I haven't touched the truck since I started working on this. But the truck's okay, if you want to take a peek at it. It needs detail work.
Hannah Lynch.
I mean, yes, but it still looks awesome.
I'm really happy with it.
Does she have a DCI?
That is a giant skull, definitely.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, the trailer actually does have wheels.
Yeah.
Huh. I thought he was just dragging this thing around behind him.
That would be really funny.
Especially given the spoiler, because nothing
Yeah.
speeds you up like Connex being dragged
With
behind
no
your
wheels.
And now we've arrived at Snatch. What do I want a caravan with wheels for?
Alright, I'm pretty happy with how this is looking. I want to do the gold detailing on his like shoulder stuff and his wrist guard. And then I think it's time to attempt the wyverns.
Wyverns ho!
We'll see how that goes.
Well, here's the good thing. It's a wyvern. It's a mythical animal. It looks exactly how you decide it looks.
Well, the nice thing about wyverns,
Maybe it's a
nice
cat
thing
with
about
wings,
wyverns,
yeah.
is that like they only have the like so many limbs. It's not like a full dragon, where I have to worry about like where all the legs are. No, it's got legs, a body, and wings. It doesn't have like forearms that I have to figure out.
Imagine if it had like the body of a kraken. Like
That would be a problem. Yeah, Andrew, if you had told me that like he had a kraken on his bandana, I would have been like, you're on your own.
Nope.
Excellent.
What can I build today?
Exactly the I wanted. That can sit there. Now we do little gold details on the armor. Right. So battle bond is happening downstairs if you hadn't noticed.
Definitely battle, not a lot of bonding.
Yeah. What do you think, Andrew? Is it too much gold? Or are we good? Just a bit, but it doesn't look bad. I can change a couple of like the belty bits to black. I might just keep like the middle one as gold and do black instead. Or nightshade. Nightshade's good. We'll do black. How's that? With black instead. Yeah. I'm also going to be doing like a dark wash over this, so that bright gold that's on his shoulders isn't going to stay super, super bright for very long. That's what I'm looking for. All right, it's time. It's time for the bitty brush. I need to think about this. I need to practice this with like a pen. Okay. It's a tiny brush. It's such a small brush.
Okay, this one for we start at 30.
So this is the basic shape I'm thinking about for the wyvern. I mean, I'm doing that with a Sharpie on a paper towel, so that's not... So what we're thinking is having those wings meeting in the center. No, that's not the brush I'm using. That's the brush I'm using. Not happy with this. Painting over it. You know what? Derek has pens in the big box. Have to wait for that gold paint to dry. While I do that, however,
Can't redraw.
takes away the challenge.
Gotta practice this one.
But any idea what a wyvern looked like?
Wings are hard, man. I gotta wait for that paint to dry. While I'm doing that, while I'm waiting for the bandana paint to dry, I'm gonna go ahead and do a wash. Yes, it's still on, so. Someone upstairs. It's you.
Thinking about shutting down for the day?
I am gonna have to shut
Yeah, I
Well, thank everybody for joining us.
Yeah.
Thank you.
One last time.
I'm gonna make the wyverns work, Andrew. I'm pretty happy with how the rest of it's come up. I'm gonna do a wash on them and see how that goes.
It's pretty awesome.
And we'll see what I end up needing to do for the wyverns. I'm gonna make it happen though. So, thank you for joining me.